Today is a significant day. It's a day when a number of people who didn't even know about the Emancipation Proclamation, when people were informed that they were no longer legally enslaved, that they had a right to be free and they had a right to be people.
Juneteenth was known amongst the blacks, but it was never recognized as an actual event where there were still slaves even after the Emancipation Proclamation, all those things that took place. Even after the Civil War ended, there were still slaves out in Texas and so forth, other states that they were still in bondage, even though all that had been lifted.
It's about the blacksmiths and the seamstresses and the musicians and the farmers and the soldiers and all of the other activities and professions that African Americans have participated in back in the past. And so we're trying to start an educational program and bring the, I'm with First Unitarian also, and to bring the Unitarians into the community to help with the education and become a part of what's going on. We had a very important colored infantry from Ohio. They were very well decorated. They were acclaimed for the things that they did, their bravery and their fighting in the Civil War.
Everybody has history, whether you was on a good side of history or bad side of history, and you should know your history, especially the bad, not to repeat those again.
Got my hand on a gospel plow, won't take nothing for my journey now. Keep your hand on the plow and you hold right on. Hold on, hold on. Keep your hand on the plow and you hold right on.
In terms of Juneteenth, we at First Unitarian are a social justice congregation, and this is a large event for social justice. The recognition from 1865 Texas, when the enslaved people were informed that technically they had already been freed, they had just not been informed of that fact. So this is a time to celebrate freedom and to come and kind of have a party.
So I'm here with a group called Toledo Persists, and we are just out here trying to register people to vote and talk a little bit about voter protection and the election that's coming up and the importance of voting in November. Get out to vote and, learn about candidates in your local area, because the local candidates are so important to where our tax dollars go. So learn who's on the ballot locally, and if you're so inclined, get involved. Get involved with a group like Toledo Persists or, the party that you're affiliated with, because we need all the help we can get to get the word out about really good candidates.
Today our goal really is just to celebrate the freedom that the people in Galveston and in Texas in general heard about 2 years after everybody else realized that they were freed men. To do that and to remind people of that historic fact. You don't often hear about these things in your history classes. In fact, you don't often hear about Buffalo Soldiers in your American history. And one of the things we try to make sure that kids understand is it's not just a matter of black history, it's American history. These men and women fought all the way from after the Civil War, and even some Buffalo Soldiers, although they weren't called that then, were at Galveston that day. We want kids to know that there's a history of service from African Americans, and it continues to this day, and that's why we do service in the community. We just celebrated our 10th anniversary last year, so we'll be celebrating 11 years coming up in October. We actually have a party planned already for October 5th that'll be open to the public. It's also the night that we'll award our scholarships, which we do every year. It gives the community an opportunity to come and join us, meet us, learn a little bit more about us, and celebrate our triumphs throughout the year, the ones that we have, and also help us plan for the following year for what we're going to do here in Northwest Ohio.
So we are here just to let people know about all the amazing things that we're doing at Big Brothers Big Sisters, and also potentially recruit some volunteers. One of the programs that we're currently running right now is our Empowering Future Leaders program, and so that is running right now all the way through July 18th, and all you have to do is be ages 6 through 16 to be a part of our program. So we teach them life skills, we teach them leadership development, how to be a positive role model. We're always looking for people who are interested in being a big sister or a big brother, because we do have a great need for that. We have over 200 kids on our waiting list. It's really only just 48 hours out of the year that you would invest in a child's life. So we also provide activities for them to do. So we sponsor different events like taking them to the opera or taking them to urban air, so at no cost to them because they're already giving us their time. So it's really a minimal amount of their time. That's what they would be doing, and they would be really making an investment in the child's life.
Good morning. And welcome to First Unitarian Church of Toledo on this beautiful morning of July 14th, 2024. I'm Terry McCauley, the Service Associate today. Leading us this morning is our Senior Minister, Reverend Tim Barger. Our music is led by Jeffrey Maxey, Music Director. Our story will be presented by Jenny Gottman, Director of Lifelong Learning. Back there in the media booth is our production team, led by Walter McGee, Producer-Director. Andy Gottman is on cameras, and Jeff Slauson is on the soundboard. If you are new here, we are a church with no creed. We are only bound by our covenant. Feel free to take home any literature or cards you find in the pew rack in front of you. If you fill out the yellow card and turn it in to us, that introduces you to us, and if you include your email address, we'll send you a weekly update of the activities of the church. Just drop those cards in the basket. Later, I'll invite you to join us for coffee, conversation, and social time.
And good morning. I'm Reverend Tim. Let me add to Terry's welcome. Now, I had given Terry some instructions, and he's already disobeyed this morning. I said we were going to sit for everything except lighting the chalice and extinguishing it. So Terry is expending extra unneeded energy, but we appreciate it, and we love your energy, Terry. Thank you.
Got to keep up the exercise. I don't want to get too stiff.
All right, yes. But I want to welcome you. We're being a bit more informal for our summer services. In many Unitarian Universalist churches, in our services, we light a chalice, a flame in a bowl that originated with the Unitarian Service Committee, using a lit chalice to indicate a safe spaces in Europe during World War II. Shall we say the words for lighting our chalice together? The words will be on the screen. We are Unitarian Universalists with minds that think, hearts that love, and hands that are ready to serve. Together, we care for our world and work for friendship and peace in our world. And while we're reciting together, Terry will lead us in saying the covenant of our congregation. This is not a creed, as Terry said, but what we share with general agreement and what we as a religious community work toward.
Love is the doctrine of this church. The quest for truth is its sacrament, and service is its prayer. This is our great covenant, to dwell together in peace, to seek the truth in love, and to help one another.
Today, on our minds, in our hearts, and with our spirits, we think of the ways of the world, the state of the nation, the serenity of our own souls. There are people in our circles who, with their family and friends, have challenges of life and death, health and illness, home and travel, financial security and monetary stress. Decisions are being made by ourselves and by others on how we can live our best lives, which sometimes means aspiring to our best lives and realizing we have moves yet to make to reach aims and goals. And individual and family ways go on with new lives born and many other joys and celebrations. May we be compassionate to all, as we don't know what other people are going through. So treat one another well, giving dignity and compassion. And may we be glad for their accomplishments and ours. A week ago at this time in our service, I spoke about the major presidential candidates and asked that we Unitarian Universalists you the vote. It doesn't need to be said that political violence is not part of how Unitarian Universalists want democracy to be advanced. The apparent assassination attempt on Donald Trump, who was only slightly injured, raises additional questions about gun control and the availability of assault weapons, as well as questions that will never be answered because the gunman was killed. Again, please you the vote, and by doing that, help to have reason with our United States freedoms. We have on our minds, in our hearts, and with our spirits, the fact that there is disaster by nature and disaster caused by humans, that inequality, inequity, and racism are in our societies, and we can do our own parts not to oppress, to celebrate many cultures, to grow in self and universally. As libraries are an important part of today's service, they're places for access to information. On our minds, in our hearts, and with our spirits, we hold the sacredness of freedom of speech, that we should resist efforts to ban books, and we need to challenge other ways people try to keep knowledge away when that awareness can open minds to experience the fullness of the world. We can share truth. One reason we join in religious gatherings is to realize common links. The uncommon is here too. Let's be together in faith, hope, and spirit, physically and in spirit, sharing the love. You might have your own items for meditation, contemplation, and prayer. So we include the unsaid here. As we are in community, we can share burdens and be glad for accomplishments. And now please join us for our opening hymn, number 131, Love Will Guide Us. The lyrics will be on the screen.
Good morning. I would like to ask all of my young friends who are interested to come forward and sit with me while we talk about today's story. Yes, excellent. Hello, Dollface. Here come the others. Yay. All right. Good morning, you guys. So today's story is called People Have Different Ideas About God. And this story is about people's different ideas about God. When people wonder about God, one thing they like to do is just ask other people that they know, what do you think God is? What do you think about God? And usually, the more people they ask, the more different ideas they will hear. because people use different words when they talk about God. Some of them say God, some say spirit, some of them say goddess or the great good thing or all that is. And it's fine that people use all these different words or ideas about God, because that's a huge question that nobody can really know the answer to. People just try to figure out the great mysteries of life as best they can, and no one person can understand it all. So we like to talk to each other because we need people's help to figure out what we think and what could be true about the nature of God. So 4 different people were asked in this story, and they gave 4 different answers. The first person said, most of the time, I'm not really sure what I think about God, but every once in a while when I'm in my garden, I feel like I know what God is. When I'm down on my knees digging in the ground and putting in the tiny little seeds, and when I'm scooping the earth back over the seeds, and I know that they're going to grow into huge, beautiful plants, I feel so amazed that something like that can happen. I can't imagine what it is that makes the plants grow that way, and I feel like that must be what God is. And then a second person was asked, and he said, well, it might be easier to tell you what I don't think God is. I don't think that God is a man with a long beard sitting on a cloud, judging the things we do and the things that we don't do. But if I had to say what I think God is, I'm not sure how to put it. I think I would say that God is like that huge red, orange, yellow blast that came out of what they call the Big Bang that happened in the beginning of the world. And I think that power from that blast traveled out over the world in the years and became all of the things in the universe, even you and me, and even the things that we don't like and that we think are bad. I guess that's what I think God is. And a third person was asked, and she said, well, I think God is love. I think of God as being in people's hearts when they go to care for other people and give help to the people who need help. And if I were to try to draw a picture of God, I would draw a picture of people holding hands with big hearts on them and smiles on their faces to show that they are feeling happy and peaceful. I guess that's what I think God is. And then the final person said, well, to tell you what I think about God, I would need to tell you about something that happened to me when I was 5. One day, I couldn't find anyone to play with, even though a lot of other kids were playing together and having fun, but I just was alone. And I wandered around in the fields and in the grass, and I was feeling kind of lonely and sad. But then suddenly I realized everything was just kind of glowing with this gorgeous brightness. All the flowers and the trees and the grass, and everything just seemed to light up with warmth and with love. And I knew that I was a part of all that is. And I knew that I was loved. And I guess some people would say that this is my idea of God, but I don't use the word God when I talk about it. So my question for you guys is, if somebody asked you what you think God is, what would you say? Thank you.
And now let's sing for the children. As this is the time when they and their teachers leave our service for religious education. As you go on your way, may you be filled with gladness. Go enjoy, go enjoy. May fortune bless your day with peace and loving kindness. Go in love, go in love.
Have you ever felt like nobody was there? Have you ever felt forgotten in the middle of nowhere? Have you ever felt like you could disappear? Like you could fall and no one would hear? So let that lonely feeling slip away. Maybe there's a reason to believe you'll be okay. 'Cause when you don't feel strong enough to stand, you can reach out your hand. And oh, someone will come running, and I know they'll take you home. Even when the dark comes crashing through, when you need a friend to carry you, and when you're broken on the ground, you will be found. So let the sun come streaming in, you'll reach up and you'll rise again. Lift your head and look around, you will be found. You will be found. There's a place where we don't have to feel alone. And every time you call out, you're a little less alone. If you only say the word, from across the silence, your voice is heard. And someone will come running, and I know they'll take you home. Even when the dark comes crashing through, when you need a friend to carry you, when you're broken on the ground, you will be found. So let the sun come streaming in, you'll reach up and you'll rise again. If you only look around, you will be found. You will be found. You are not alone. 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 You are not. You are not alone. Even when the dark comes crashing through, you will need a friend to carry you. When you're broken on the ground, you will be found. So let the sun come streaming in, you reach up and you rise again. If you only look around, you will be found. You will be found. You will be found.
Thank you, Jeffrey. Please join me for our time of meditation, contemplation, and prayer. Today, we might consider a stereotype that librarians are shushing people. when what's actually encouraged is a state of quiet, better to allow people to read and think, not to promote an entire absence of sound. But let's think about the comforts we have in silence with this piece by Barbara Stevens. Let this be a place of warm and gentle silence, the silence that soothes and comforts the wounded, the silence that yields insights into heart and soul, the silence that calms, the silence that listens, the silence that speaks, the silence that renews. Let this be a place of warm and gentle silence. In meditation, contemplation, and prayer, let us observe 1 minute of silence.
This reading is by Matt Haig. It's from his book, The Midnight Library. Librarians have knowledge. They guide you to the right books, the right worlds. They find the best places, like soul-enhanced search engines.
Soul-enhanced search engines. That gets to the sacredness of libraries, to the ministry of librarians, doesn't it? They find the best places, Matt Haig wrote. Today I'll talk about finding in my Unitarian Universalism, with my ministry, and through my librarian's knowledge. One of the things I like to say about Unitarian Universalists is that we are seekers and sometimes finders. Seeking is what we do. The free and responsible search for truth and meaning is so important that it became a defining principle, a value of our religion. You might say that I'm so much a seeker that I became a minister better to help others seek. and to continue seeking myself. I also have some finding. For a Sunday talk, it's that I found Unitarian Universalism, and I continue to find as a Unitarian Universalist. I've told you before that my faith journey has 4 segments. My father was a Methodist minister and Air Force chaplain, so I was raised Protestant in an Air Force family, then in the Methodist church after my father died when I was 8, and mother and the 4 of us kids still living at home moved to Monticello, Arkansas. When I was about 11, I became a member of the First United Methodist Church there. I don't think I was spiritually seeking yet. I just wanted to join the church a year after my brother did, as it seemed a part of growing up. The second of the 4 segments is high school. I went to an Episcopal boarding school in Sewanee, Tennessee, and was also there for my first year of college. 50 years ago, at Sewanee Academy, I converted to the Episcopal Church. A bit of religious seeking there, as I made a decision to leave the Methodists, though my Christian belief really wasn't strong. I wanted something, and this seemed a way to find a spiritual home. But the seeking didn't stop, and I didn't find yet after all. And Sewanee is a spiritual place for the people who went to school there. I left Sewanee after my first year of college. One way to explain that move is that I enjoyed my newfound freedoms as a first-year college student a bit too much. So I realized that I might better reset somewhere else. And I transferred to Hendrix College in Conway, Arkansas, where I was first an English major, then found the wonders of philosophy, ending up graduating with my major in the humanities area, combining credits in literature and philosophy. At Hendrix, a Methodist school, I deliberately chose to be unchurched. As a child, we were at church every Sunday. Then in boarding school, Sunday church attendance was required. And I was in the university choir as a Sewanee undergraduate, so I never took the opportunity not to go to church on Sundays. At Hendrix, that was my way. Not a humanist yet, though I was exploring philosophy, or seeking spirituality or my own theology or atheism, though I probably wasn't what I would call a believer. I just agnostically, you might say, put church aside. When I moved to Austin, Texas after college, I tried the Episcopal Church again, and it didn't speak to me. Then, I don't know for what reason, in 1989, the idea popped into my head that I wrote a paper about Unitarians in my high school religion class, and maybe I ought to check out a service. I did, and found my spiritual place. Readings in the service, not being from the Bible, made a big impression on me that religious inspiration goes beyond Scripture. The sermons about how we live and even about why we live, talking about community and philosophy and different approaches to theology and religion, and seeking and not always focused on Christianity, were inspiring and comforting. plus the preaching, which at times felt closer to college lecture than an approachable essay. And I really hope I don't give the impression that I'm a professor of religion in my sermons. That helped me in my own searching. Sometimes it was just to understand what I heard but didn't quite get. I joined First Unitarian Universalist Church of Austin in 1992. I found Unitarian Universalism. I found a religion and a place that supports seeking and sometimes finding, but humans seem always to be seeking in many dimensions of our living and being. So this place of search and support, a Unitarian Universalist church and the faith of Unitarian Universalism, was the finding I needed. What are other important findings in my life? Well, there's love and a home life. My wife Jewel and I met in a Unitarian Universalist church, and she brought a ready-made family while I was pretty much a loner. Nothing necessarily wrong with that. I'm much better because of our love. And there's the finding that I'm always a seeker, which might tie to my having been a professional student for a while. And you'll hear some about that next week. Plus, finding that libraries have always been important for my seeking. I've always enjoyed libraries. I remember going to the library at Blytheville Air Force Base, Arkansas. I wasn't even in kindergarten yet. Yes, there was the excitement of discovering a place that has stories and information to share freely, and being able to check out books. What better way to cultivate searching than giving someone access to a library card? And then to help finding by letting people read books and learn by following their own interests in addition to the curricula of their schooling. School itself can help too, of course. In junior high school, perhaps as a way to keep me occupied during study hall, because for me the classes at that time weren't a challenge for me, the school librarian would pay me 50 cents per box of catalog cards I would file. Remember the cabinets of long drawers with little cards? Someone had to keep those current. Why not a 7th grader? The public library in town was also good for me. I read my way through the books for my age, especially the young adult mysteries and sports biographies, and then got into the adult section, concentrating a bit more on the science fiction while still pretty young, but also finding novels, mainstream novels, and some literary novels, plus some hippie mysticism and adventure of the early 70s. Yes, you can expand your mind in many ways in a library. In a small town in southern Arkansas, the public library showed me the world. Maybe I wasn't finding much at that stage, but exploring, seeking, in the pages of a book helps to make finding possible when you are ready. Seeking and finding are interrelated, of course. For example, when I was a proofreader in Austin, Texas, the point was to seek out errors in a manuscript, and once found, mark them to be corrected. I was proofreader for a typesetter that was one of the last companies to use hot type, the kind that would use a linotype machine to make lines of metal type from pig iron. And some national book publishers wanted that old style. Just one of the many ways I've worked in publishing. That was before library school. I ended up returning to a Texas state agency as a proofreader, then a legal editor for the state legislature, and then was hired as a legal editor for an international law book publisher in Austin. After I was there 3 years, the company decided to close that office. And they offered me a position in Tampa, Florida, but the offer didn't have enough incentive for me to go. And I felt ready for graduate school. My going to library school was circumstantial, let's say. The circumstance was that I had to make a new move. My publishing job was ending. I had applied to a writing program at the University of Southern California. I was accepted, but the preliminaries didn't look too promising for my well-being. No financial aid offered, and the 2 job possibilities I had arranged, though both were working in television in Los Angeles, had only a requirement of my having a driver's license to be a production assistant, for one, and the other was as a writer's assistant for a soap opera that would soon be canceled. Then the Los Angeles riots, after police officers were acquitted of the beating of Rodney King, happened, right in the area of the university. I found that sometimes you listen to the world rather than yourself. In Austin, though, I remembered thinking about library school at the University of Texas as one way to graduate school. The application deadline had passed, but I decided to call and start the process for the next year. Well, they said they were still taking applications, so I did the paperwork, was accepted, and returned to school that fall. Since I hadn't entered with a particular purpose other than to learn library science, and not exactly sure at the beginning what that encompassed, the field of librarianship was open to me. I found my joy as a reference librarian, the person who someone will ask for information, and I try to help them find answers. My own seeking and sometimes finding might have had an effect on my specializing in reference librarianship, becoming a question authority, you might say. And in library school, I found that I was a really good student at the graduate level. Rather than getting a library job after graduation, I continued on a scholarly track and entered a doctoral program at Syracuse University. More on that next Sunday. Let's turn the corner to religion. Do you remember that on May 21st, 2017, I preached a sermon here titled 289.1? That's the Dewey Decimal number for Unitarian Universalism. The premise for the preaching was that, as that was on the date of my installation as your newly called and settled full-time minister, I had just moved into my office here and had to arrange the books in my library. And I talked about how I put them in Dewey Decimal order and why I decided on Dewey instead of the Library of Congress. Which leads to a brief note about our church library. Yes, it's been closed for quite a while. The hope is that it will reopen about the time of our ingathering this September, with a focus now on Unitarian Universalism and on writings of people who have been part of our church. We're getting closer to having that organized and ready again for books to be in circulation. Libraries and religion. Last week, you might remember, I said something about journalism being a religion. The library field also has that characteristic. Salman Haider, a librarian blogger, has stated, "I'm a librarian. Librarianship is my religion. Libraries are my temple, and catalog is my key weapon to unlock the wealth of wisdom and knowledge stored in libraries." The author Umberto Eco has said, "Libraries can take the place of God." Barbara Kingsolver, in her novel The Poisonwood Bible, has a character say, "I attempted briefly to consecrate myself in the public library, believing every crack in my soul could be chinked with a book." From the autobiography of Jean-Paul Sartre, a modern philosopher and writer, there is, "I had found my religion. Nothing seemed more important to me than a book. I saw the library as a temple." Roy Tennant, a library thought leader, said, "Only librarians like to search. Everyone else likes to find." We Unitarian Universalists aren't everyone else. The search is part of our being. But we do find in different ways. I hope that my finding, whether as a minister, as a journalist, as a librarian, as a seeking and sometimes finding Unitarian Universalist myself, helps in your distinguishing your own uniqueness from the feeling that you're just like everyone else. You are you, and our faith of seeking, guided by values, inspirations, principles, and purposes, and centered in love, is better because you're part of this church. So be it.
It's time for our offering. As you may have heard here last week, First Parish Church in Kingston, Massachusetts was vandalized on the 4th of July. Our board at First Unitarian Church of Toledo voted to give the undedicated portion of this coming Sunday's offerings to First Parish. Any amount put in the plate or donated online that is not specified for pledges or other particular purposes will be sent to First Parish. There is an online fundraiser on the Faithify site, but we ask that you give through us rather than directly by way of Faithify, so that we can show that the Toledo Unitarians community supports First Parish. On these days, we're passing the offering baskets, but without ushers. There are baskets for each side of the aisle, and you in the congregation, please pass them along. You might have to get up and reach someone sitting a little bit distant from you down the pew or in the pew behind you, so do a brief stretch in preparation if you need to. When the baskets reach the back of the sanctuary, one designated person will take them to the office. And if the basket misses you, we do have one in the lobby, so you can leave your donation on your way to coffee hour. If you have cash and want that credited to your contribution, put it in an envelope that you can find in the pew racks and put your name on it. Or if you give a check, just note on the memo line if you want the funds directed toward your pledge or another purpose. There are other ways to give too. You can use either QR code shown on the screen, one for Venmo, the other going to our website. Or you can go on our website, uutoledo.org, and click Give, then Online Giving. Or you can mail a check to First Unitarian Church of Toledo, 3205 Glendale Avenue, Toledo, Ohio, 43614. As First Unitarian Church of Toledo is a self-supporting congregation, we are very grateful for your contributions.
Our offertory hymn is number 1008, When Our Heart is in a Holy Place.
When our heart is in a holy place, when our heart is in a holy place,
We are blessed with love and amazing grace.
when
Our heart is in a holy place.
when
We trust the wisdom in each of us, every color, every creed and kind. And we see our faces in each other's eyes, and our heart is in a holy place.
when our heart is in a holy place, when our heart is in a holy place, we are blessed with love and amazing grace. When our heart is in a holy place, when we tell our story from deep inside, and we listen with a loving mind, and we hear our voices in each other's words, then our heart is in a holy place. When our heart is in a holy place, when our heart is in a holy place, we are blessed with love and amazing grace. When our heart is in a holy place, when we share the silence of sacred space, and the God of our hearts stirs within, and we feel the power of each other's faith, then our heart is in a holy place. When our heart is in a holy place, when our heart is in a holy place, we are blessed with love and amazing grace. When our heart is in a holy place, when our heart is in a holy place.
It's the coming soon part of our service where we tell you what's on the calendar for next week. We give some announcements, and we also let you know what's up for right after the service. Join us for Spiritual Forum at 9:45 on Sunday, when Susan Spiegel will lead a discussion to explore our 8th principle, which is we, the member congregations of the Unitarian Universalist Association, covenant to affirm and promote journeying towards spiritual wholeness by working to build a diverse, multicultural, beloved community by our actions that accountably dismantle racism and other oppressions in ourselves and our institutions. Thought-provoking questions will be asked using the anti-racist deck, yes, another Sunday with cards, from Dr. Ibram X. Kendi. Are we living up to our 8th principle by actively dismantling systems of oppression? Let's leave the safety of our comfort zones and honestly explore our experiences in a culture of white supremacy. This is the hard work that our faith requires of us. Please be in Fellowship Hall at 9:45 a.m. Sunday for this spiritual forum session. And then for the Sunday service at 11 a.m. here in the sanctuary and on our YouTube channel. I'll continue this July series with Reverend Tim's Learning, when I'll tell you how school became so much a part of me that I became a professional student. Included in the new version of our Unitarian Universalist Guiding Principles, the just adopted revision of Article 2 of the Unitarian Universalist Association bylaws, is that we covenant to learn from one another in our free and responsible search for truth and meaning. That's education. Professional student fits there.
We want to put up pride and Pan-African flags on the front of our building to signal our welcome in time for them to be up for the Toledo Pride Festival, which begins August 23rd. Please watch Toledo Unitarians Media for upcoming announcements about how to make special donations. As putting these flags up isn't in our budget, the board is allowing for a special collection for the purchase and installation. Soon we'll give you the giving details. A date has been set for our upcoming rummage sale. This year the plan is for a 2-day event, Friday and Saturday, September 6 and 7. That's the weekend after Labor Day, and September 8th, that Sunday, will be our in-gathering renewal service. Marnus Lawson is the lead volunteer for the rummage sale. While you might start gathering items you'll donate, please don't bring them to church until we announce that we're ready to receive them. There isn't much storage space. The final coming soon entry is for me to invite you to join us in Fellowship Hall after today's service for coffee, conversation, and social time.
As Terry extinguishes our chalice flame, please join me in reciting the words for us figuratively to send some Unitarian Universalist fire into the community. After this, our postlude for congregational singing will be number 168, One More Step. Now our chalice words. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again. Go in peace, holding, knowing, centering love, and sharing love.
One more step, we will take one more step, till there is peace for us, and everyone will take one more step. One more word, we will say one more word, till every word is heard by everyone. We'll say one more word, one more prayer. We will say one more prayer, till every prayer is shared by everyone. We'll say one more prayer.
Jeff Wood. I read your letter. Good man. Good letter. Good letter is late. This bird is dying. Show up for us. Well, yeah, we got Well, thank you for doing the little harmonies. You gotta sing out. You gotta sing the little harmonies.
Oh,
you can sing out a little more.
I'm always singing harmonies.
It's fun.
Yeah. That's what we did.